Hello, sweet souls. This is DTO in the flow, inviting you into 3 deep breaths. Breathe in through the nose, open mouth, exhale, in through the nose, open mouth, exhale. Last one, in through the nose. Feel free to roll the shoulders, get into your body. Thank you for joining this podcast today, Nameless Energy. At any time, feel free to comment, ask a question, and share. And if anything, bare minimum, find your favorite emoji and put it in the comments so we know you're there. I am podcasting live from Embody, Costa Rica, which is a charming mountain town in the Central Valley of Costa Rica. And this is where we are offering retreats, transformational tours, activities. Himalaya and I invite you to enjoy and experience Costa Rica. So you can check out our website. And we would love to have your energy and your presence here in this slice of paradise. Little backstory, I came to Costa Rica in 1997 with the intention of learning Spanish. And I successfully did that. And I went on to become a school teacher, teaching Spanish, and now living my dream in Costa Rica with the Pura Vida. So if you've been to Costa Rica, why don't you put in the comments, Pura Vida, type that in. I'd love to see how many people know about Ticolandia. All right. Well, today, from my heart to yours, I want to introduce a dear soul brother, Kevin Russell. And after 2 decades of exploring the healing modalities of yoga, meditation, transformative breath work, emotional kinesiology, touch for health, emotional code therapy, I'm sure he does cold therapy, hypo, as well. Kevin experienced a massive life-altering enlightenment experience in 2019. This culminated in his clairvoyant abilities coming online and writing a handbook on enlightenment and quantum physics in just 2.5 weeks on how to reconnect to your inner wholeness and innate you-ness that is your ticket to a healthier, happier, and more abundant life. Since then, Kevin has established processes to assist people in reaching their own state of radical reconnection and elevated consciousness as an energy transformation facilitator. As a clairvoyant medium, Kevin Russell specializes in providing hyperpersonal directed knowings, messages, and insights which can provide that insight and help enhance relief from symptoms of stress and trauma. As an energy healer and inner guide, Kevin Russell facilitates the energetic releases of large knots of stuck emotions, trauma events, negative subconscious beliefs, dark, dense, negative energy, and reconnection of all the parts of us. His revolutionary tune-up framework helps you feel lighter, less stressed, more calm, and present, and more like yourself in minutes. So thank you, Kevin Russell, for being here today. Let's bring him on. How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, Dave, doing really well. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I always love international podcasts. You're in San Diego. I'm in Costa Rica. And grateful that we get to explore some of these topics and themes. And I'm sure we'll get to what we get to, and we'll probably have another series because it's a never-ending gobstopper, right? It just keeps on going, and consciousness and awakening and transformation, and we forget, we remember. Oh, what was that thing again? Oh, yeah, I remember. I'm this divine soul. Oh, why did I forget that? How silly. So
that's it. There's always another layer.
Yeah, and Mary's here. She's exploring these conversations today. So thanks for being here, Mary. Mary's a big Pura Vida fan of Embody. And so we have a 5Q interview today, which will help us learn more about who you are, Kevin, because I imagine since we're live streaming on your pages and my pages, some people may know both of us, which if
Yeah.
you know both of us, whoever's out there, just go ahead and write, I know these guys
Total.
in the comments.
Yeah.
We'd love for you to ask any questions, as I mentioned. And we already have another friend of mine I met in San Diego, the Sierra Club hiking backpack days. What's up, Alan?
I love
Pura
it.
vida, Costa Rica and San Diego. Yeah, he's living in South America. So Alan's,
Oh, very cool.
like many of us, recognizing that there's more Americas than just North America.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
whole massive world of America out there. Absolutely.
Exactly. For sure. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the fact that we get to connect here and do this live stream, because we have met in person. I actually met Kelly before I met you, probably around the same time, because you did the graphic art for the first collaboration that we did for a yoga class. And so, as many people that are in San Diego County know, that I've played pretty much every yoga studio and got to meet tons of studio managers, teachers, owners, and then do launch parties for my albums. And so, of course, I know, Kevin, you're in that world of yoga, meditation, expanding your consciousness. And so just wanted to set that up for people to understand that Kevin and I are friends. We know each other, and that I also got to help you on this audiobook for your book. So anyone that can read the ticker below there, where it says 5Q interview featuring Kevin Russell. He is an author and a thought leader, and his book is behind him, behind his left shoulder there. And we're going to talk more about that today. I know. Like, which way?
Gotta get my lefts and rights right. Yeah.
What's that movie? Any Which Way But Loose?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's kick it off with question number 1. And this is for you to share, like, your origin. So how did you begin your work?
I'll keep it as concise as I can, because that really opens up a Pandora's box in a beautiful way. I think for me it was a lot like a lot of people, where it's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong, not even endeavor, just kind of open. Just I was open, and I wasn't accepting what I was hearing as like the answers that were being provided by institutions. So something that always followed me through life was the question, or the statement, yes, and this is with religion, with science, with politics, with society, with the way we do, with everything really. And it was just, okay, well, I understand what you're saying, and I don't think that's the whole pie. I feel like it's a sliver of it. So I want the whole pie. I'm curious about the whole thing. So that was really the driver, like not accepting things just because a lot of people say they are, or a few people say they are, but really feeling into it for myself. So that was the lifelong part. And then it was Kelly and I really coming to an awareness through our daughter that we were not in a good place in our relationship, that launched us on this more intense, focused aspect of our journey, where we learned a lot of these tools, got into the subconscious work, got into the emotional release and transformation work, shifted my perception, my understanding of our energetic reality. I mean, I grew up hearing, everything is energy, and yeah, it kind of goes in and, kind of maybe goes out like, oh yeah, everything's energy. Sure. Yeah. But then once we start actually applying these principles of everything is energy to our lives, to our everyday lives, practically, easily, that's really where things started to accelerate for me. And the more that I cleared, the more that I let go of my beliefs, my resentment, my attachments, my resistance, the beliefs about myself that I cultivated throughout life that weren't healthy, that were self-depreciating or self-limiting, and reconcile those and move through those, I started feeling lighter. I started feeling more peaceful. I started finding that flow state way more often. So then it was much more visible when I got shifted out of it, and I could really physiologically feel that difference, as well as psychologically recognize it. So it's really the culmination of that lifelong journey, that inspiration and instigation our daughter gave us in around 2015, 2016, finding the right Western medical doctor at the right time, who also practiced a form of psychological kinesiology, muscle testing with inquiry, to see what answers resonated as true or as strong within our bodies. And that then it was off to the races. I was like, oh, this feels good. I'm just going to learn how to do all these things and do it for myself. And so in that regard, it was I guess, more of a selfish endeavor, if you want to call it that. But I look at any time we're doing work on ourselves or for ourselves as one of the most challenging in some ways, and also the most powerful thing we can ever do for ourselves and others. Because if we are good on the inside, then we can share that goodness and that optimization, that peaceful presence, the non-attachment, the objective observer perspective with everyone, because we're not redlining it in survival mode anymore. So it's really, that's kind of the combination of everything that kind of leads up to that experience in 2019. And then that was really the powder keg that lit everything off.
Well, it's wonderful. I'm going to share with everyone a picture from your website of you and Kelly and
Yeah,
your rapid transformation sessions, what we're going to hear more about later.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's wonderful that you got that message through your daughter emoting and expressing what she was going through, and it was a reflection back to you as a couple, and that old adage, right? It's an inside job.
It always is. And it was really a gut check moment, because the way that it was expressing in her was she was anxious. She had anxiety, and so she would pick and scratch at any little kind of blemish or any little feeling that she had, and ended up scratching her face and her arms raw, so it looked like she had chicken pox. She had all these little scabs everywhere. And we were still extrinsically focused. We were still externally focused. Like, oh, something must be wrong with Ryan. Let's get Ryan help. That's our daughter's name. So we took her Kelly took her for a session with this doctor I mentioned. And it took him 7 minutes and a few questions, and I think one muscle test, to guide her to that answer, which was just waiting for her on the inside. When mom and dad fight, I get anxious, and this is my expression of that anxiety. So all it took was, because she was in second grade at the time, and so all it took was for her to connect the conscious awareness with the physiological trigger response, which was the picking. Never happened again. Literally, it was just connect. Oh, that's why. Oh, okay, I don't need to do that anymore. 7 minutes. And after those 7 minutes in this hour session with the doctor, at the end of that 7 minutes, he said, "No, sweetie, do you mind waiting in the waiting room for a few minutes? I want to talk to your mom." And he turns to Kelly and he says, "She's fine. Now you two, on the other hand, that's where the work is." And that's really what
roll up your sleeves.
Off.
Come on, you're getting ready to
exactly
do the work. You're getting in there. You're like, oh, mind, body, spirit. It's all connected, and
oh my gosh,
reflections of each other. And of course, like the biggest courageous act for all of us is to be in a relationship, because everything shows up, right? And then we pattern from our parents, and then, well, this is what my mom or dad or whomever in my life and my family lineage. And then there's ancestral belief systems, there's cultural belief systems, and then there's what's going on in the moment that stresses everyone out, where like everyone has to work and make a ton of money. If not, then you feel like you're not enough. And then
the comparison, the judgment.
So all of that is always up for all of us. So
well,
so 2019 was when you had your big aha moment. And so let's go into question number 2, which is, how did you become an author? Because that moment occurred around that year.
So it was November 21st, 2019, was the day that it was actually that afternoon. And it was something called a biofield harmonics session. And it was with a practitioner local here in San Diego, up in Carlsbad, California, which is kind of North County, San Diego. And going into it, what I was sharing was, it felt like I was a toddler in a dark room. Like I knew there was stuff in the room, furniture, things. I could sense it was there. I kind of walk, like crab crawl my way around the room by touch, but I couldn't quite make everything out. And so I shared that with the practitioner going in, and unbeknownst to me, this is a no talk, no touch session. And so it's really the practitioner's holding that space for whatever I'm ready for, whatever's there for me to come through. And then she's also getting insight and information as well. And then we kind of debrief afterwards. So I had one of the most wild, amazing, trippy, unexpected, I already said amazing, spectacular experiences in the session. And it was just right place, right time. I'd moved through layers and layers and generations and lifetimes of releasing emotional trauma, reconciling, epigenetic expressions, really moving through a lot of my stuff, ancestral stuff, and what ended up being past life stuff, which I wasn't even looking for it, but it was there. And that was, I think, probably the other big factor that led me to all this, was really staying open and curious and staying out of the mindset that I have the answer. Like I don't consciously know the answer. And in the work we've done, my position is every single one of us have all the answers on the inside. They're already there, waiting for us to reconnect with. We just need to get through the layers of conditioning and programming and belief and separation from self that occurs in life to reconnect with all that. And so that's what I did in that afternoon on November 21st. I reconnected with my higher self. I don't know any other really way to describe it. A supernova went off in my mind, in my head. So I was, my eyes were closed. I had a sleep mask and then a weighted mask on top of that. So it's kind of blacked out. And I was squinting behind the masks because the light inside my head was so bright. It was like, I mean, like those the lights they use in Hollywood, the big, massive halogen for, to do moonlight or sunlight. It was amazing. And it felt like I was mainlining unconditional love. Is the only way I can describe it. It was just like pulse after pulse, just like flowing through me. I was cry laughing because I couldn't contain all of it. It was just this like giddy, unbelievably like beautiful, just feeling throughout every cell in my body. And then the voice in my head changed. And what I heard, and practically my own voice, was maybe like a half a degree off, was, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you made it. We're going to have so much fun together." I was like, okay, that's something new. I wasn't it's been 40 something years on this planet. That's a new, that's a new little chestnut. But I rolled with it. I was like, all right, cool. Come out of my experience, and the practitioner and I are kind of sharing notes, and she was saying, I don't know what this means, but I'm just going to say it. And I was 20 years in a design career, user interface, UI, UX, so computer, website, application, software design. And she was using my industry speak. And so everything she was saying, I was like, yep. Oh, that makes total sense. Yep, 100%. She's like, I don't know what this means. I'm just saying it. And one of the analogies one thing she shared was, okay, so you just connected to your higher self. So, there's that. And then she said, you're here to create a new human design. Already knowing full well that human-centered design already exists is kind of a definition, or kind of, placing us in an archetype type of framework. And the first thing that popped in my head as soon as she said that was a book. It's going to be a book of some kind. A new way to approach this thing called life. How can we do it differently than we've done it before? How can we shift our perspectives, our perceptions, and in so doing, shift our reality? And the other analogy she shared was, for the experience, was it's like you're in a high rise on an elevator going from the 3rd to the 5th floor, and your guy in the 9th floor is like, hey buddy, up here, this is where the action is. So in this afternoon, it was, okay, this is what you just did. This is what you're here to do. And then I kind of took that and ran with it, where it's going to be a book. Oh, here's the title. And then not much happened it was a lot happening, but kind of in my own personal space, reconciling this massive shift in my experience, reconnection that's just taken place, figuring out how to be in the world with this new place of operation. How do I interact with my family? How do I interact with friends? Like it was all so brand new. It was like, in a lot of ways, it was kind of like a newborn colt, just like relearning how to walk in some ways. And then about 2 weeks after that, the book just started like flying out of me. I was writing 16, 18 hours a day. I wasn't tired. I wasn't hungry. One of the most pure flow states I've ever been. And it came through in, so I started off handwriting everything that was coming out, switched to typing because I could type faster. And then I had to go to voice dictation because it was just coming through so fast. Like I was like, all right, just get it all out, and then we can parse it later. We can reorganize it later. And when I got everything into a Google Doc, it was pretty much everything was in all caps, and there was a ton of exclamation points, just because that's how it's coming through. It's coming through in this like celebratory shout, this trumpets on high type of just, oh my gosh, this is it. And I call them future castings, and some people call it deja vu. Some people call it there's different labels for it. But I had this indelible vision, like visceral experience in my mind's eyes in a meditation of who I'm going to be talking to, types of stages I'm going to be speaking on, as if it was already happening. I just get these downloads, and that was like in late December, January 2019, 2020. And so I have these knowings, and at the time I was like, I did the thing. I reconnected. Oh, my work's done. Oh, that was crazy. That was wild. Okay, now what? And then it's like, oh, now
Yeah.
you got to jump back into life and do the thing.
Yeah.
So then it was 6 months of publisher outreach, sending out proposals, putting together packets, pitching publishers on the concept and on the platform and on the book. And I think I reached out to 90 plus publishers and didn't get one. I got one bite, but it ended up, I saw the contract and it didn't favor the author as much as I would have, or balanced with the author as much. So then I said, and this is something that's in the book, sometimes you just need to chuck it in the effort bucket and do it anyway. And
Yep.
so then I was like, forget it, I'm just self-publishing. And so went that route. And then it was some very amazing insight, and the right people at the right time really came in this kind of, it ended up being about a 9-month process from getting everything organized in a manuscript setting to actually going through editing processes, getting it ready, laid out, dialed in for publishing. And everything kind of fell into place in the sense that I was ready to publish just the framework, just the download of this is how you do it. Pick up this book and check out what's in it, no matter where you are on the journey, whether you are a level 12 mage or you are a brand new kind of swimmer just dipping your toes into this energetic pool. There's going to be something there for you. And the feedback I got was, it's great, but there's nothing of you in there. And people need to connect with you as an individual, as an author, if they're going to connect with your message. So that's where I started kind of interjecting, bridging my stories, bridging a lot of philosophy that has really impacted my life, both with Stoicism and Taoism, different practices of really looking at it from the standpoint of, I am responsible for everything that happens within this body, within this mind-body system. I can have some degree of control over, and I can take some degree of responsibility for. I'm not playing the game where I'm not driving the car of life anymore. And so, yeah, it was just getting to the place of a knowing, like, I have to do this. It wasn't even, there was no question about it. It was just the universe kind of was like, all right, off the bench, you're in the game. I was like, okay, game on.
Nice.
So in those months after that experience, it was, I can't do what I did anymore. My 20-year career in design is done. I got to take a hard right and go this direction. And then it's just been building from there. So yeah, it's one step at a time, taking the horse by the reins, doing it, not being afraid to get DIY. And then, shortly after, that's where we connected, more, I'd say more personally and more professionally. I mean, we worked together for a couple of months, during the recording and the mastering and everything. And then the book, with real quiet, soft release on, it ended up being August 8th to 2020. And then the audiobook released shortly after that. And then it's been off to the races ever since.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love you as an author. I feel it's definitely your passion, and it's amazing because for me as a musician, I can relate to what you're sharing, where ideas come when ideas come. And if you're not there to hold that container of energy and to document it in some fashion, then it can, just like a passing cloud in the sky. It's like,
100%. Yeah.
And so I love how you dedicate yourself 16-hour days, didn't matter. You were like, that was your temple, your organism, your body was just a vessel, right? For all these messages to come here and go into these pages of your book. And I also love the balance of it, as you said, like sharing your own personal stories as well as these larger messages and these knowings that you get to talk about with my guy on the ninth floor, which is Radical Enlightenment. And then, having it out there in the world, I'm sure has been really powerful for you to know that people can listen to the audiobook, people can read a chapter at a time, and you have a workbook style that accompanies that as well. So would you like
Yeah.
to talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so one thing I always say is take what you leave, or take what you need, leave what you don't. And this is it really comes into play when we're looking at releasing resistance and attachment to the contrast that we experience in the world. And that's really it. I mean, if we're going to boil down, what are we here for? We're here to experience all of the contrast and release resistance to all of the contrast. And then that's where we get back to balance. That's where we get back to that middle way. And so it really, I mean, I've had people that have read it 4 times and they've said each time they've gotten something different.
Mm.
We were working with a client right now who read it a year ago. It was recommended to him by a friend. And then this year he's taking one of our training courses, which is really that it's the more deeper dive into the handbook aspect. We're really integrating these practices that are in the book. We call them the radicals. So it's a practice of radical honesty, radical empathy, radical acceptance, concepts of radical balance, and then recognizing the radical nature of the universe, which all can deliver us to this place of experiencing radical freedom on the inside, which also comes with a healthy dose of radical responsibility. Again, I think Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. has a great quote in one of his books where my responsibility ends at my fingertips. And I like to add on to that. And the responsibility within this system is explicit of what we emote, what we express, what we breathe and share into the world. And so, yeah, it's, you can take the handbook and take the book and run with it. And then we've also got supplemental courses, practices, trainings that really can embed these. I mean, I've had some people ask, what is it like? And I mean, not to put too much labeling or meaning out there, but I have had people exclaim, "Oh, this is Christ consciousness training," and it kind of is in a way that we're getting hyper present. We're not being assaulted by the world as much as we are if we're kind of living that standard, news cycle work week type of existence. And it's one step at a time. We're all in different places of the journey. And there is always going to, within those 200 pages, there is always going to be something there for you. Something, maybe you heard it a couple times and then finally it clicks, or it's a new concept. You hadn't heard it before and it really works for you. And it really is about priming the system physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so that we can get to this place of reconnection, of a deeper connection to ourselves, which dovetails beautifully into our third question.
Totally, yeah, and this is really what you're describing is what radical enlightenment is, and that word, I love radical because it's doing something at this extreme, like you're going for it no matter what, despite of what your chatter and your mind tells you, despite of what other people are sharing with you.
Yeah.
It's like you're clear that you're going to seek this or allow for enlightenment, right? And I think as yogis for years and centuries, we always talk about the light. And even you can see on the image above us right here, this is a little screenshot from your website, is like there's the light, there's the cosmos, there's the light within us, our soul. And so for us to lighten the load, and you were in our home in San Diego when we were doing our international move to Costa Rica, and we lightened our load. We sold, got rid of, had a moving sale, like 95% of our physical belongings, molecular matter was like, it's not there. The weight's been released. And so there's this experience that I think all of us get to go through as human beings of like, where are we able to be in this joy and bliss? And one of the things that you said earlier that I really feel is important is to be open and curious. And I feel that, wouldn't you even probably say that you can't even get to radical enlightenment if you're not open and curious? Because if you're closed and stubborn, you're pretty much stuck,
And
right?
I mean, Exactly. And I mean, I like to really boil it down to yeah, a lot of times I feel like spirituality and enlightenment, um, it can get very esoteric very quickly. But really, to me, it just comes down to very practical electromagnetic and energetic um, constructs or laws, let's call it. And so, from that standpoint, if we're looking at just at electricity, we're either in flow or we're in resistance. Resistance, the light's off. Flow, the light's on. Resistance or flow, that's it. There's really no in between. And so, if we're experiencing any form of resistance, which can be a resistance to an idea, resistance to something in the world, resistance to something within ourselves, we're not in a flow state. We're in a reactive limbic state. And so, we're not even in our connected hemispheric mind. We're dumped into whatever our dominant hemisphere is. We're kicked out of the driver's seat of life. And our protector, our monkey mind, our lizard brain, those are the energies that really come in and take the wheel and say, listen, you little bundle of universal energy, you don't know this, you don't know what to do here. I've been recording everything you've ever experienced. I know everything that keeps you safe, because you, in all our gnarly experiences, haven't died, and so you must be fine. So we're just going to keep running these programs.
Yeah.
So if we just assume that the way that it is the way that it is, then that's going to be the way that it is. There's not going to be any room for movement, because there's resistance based on that fixated, fixed view of things. So if we can just get to this place of saying, I don't know, which is one of the most powerful places we can ever get to. If we go back to Greek philosophy, Plato was walking around Athens, and he was asking all the artisans, this is the Oracle of Delphi, asking all the artisans, like, how do you do what you do? Tell me more, teach me. Like, this is amazing, this pottery and this woven work and this leather work and this artisanship. And then he goes to the Oracle of Delphi and he says, who is the smartest man at the time? Who's the smartest man in all of Athens? And the Oracle says, you are. And he says, but I know nothing. How can that be? And the Oracle's like, well, there's your answer. Because you're open and curious. So you're just taking in without judgment, without comparing one against the other, and you're just curious. So if we can stay at that place, not only for ourselves and with ourselves within our own experience, which is it's a full load in and of itself, unwinding all of our triggers and all our traumas. But if we can stay open and curious with others and recognize that everybody is doing the absolute best with the tools they've got, and nobody has the same tools, that can help us shift out of judgment and comparison and resistance, get us to this more kind of open, peaceful, placid place where we can invite new things in. We've got space to take the old programs that serve us, and they did their jobs. They got us to whatever point kept us alive. But it comes a point where there's diminishing returns of the activity of the system. So that's where it's important. Let's take a look at it. Are we still being served by this, or is it starting to be anything that's controlling us, and that is like really suppressing us and keeping us limited and fixed in life? So with radical enlightenment, really the foundation is looking at it, kind of flipping the script in a way, and recognizing that we are all enlightened. We've all already been there. If you've ever talked to a 3-year-old, like, they've got all the answers. They're confident. They're going. Some stranger in a playground. Hey, you want to go play animals? Hey, you want to be best friends? Okay, cool. Let's go. So all of us are still those little kids. All of us are still in that expression of connection. We've just built up these beliefs and resistance and nonsense, and the way our parents are, the way our grandparents are, the way our society is, the way our teachers are, the way our sports teams are, the way our religion is, that really get between us and that more naturally enlightened state, in my experience. So it really is a reductive exercise. It's removing. We don't need to add anything to it. We already have the knowing. We already have the capabilities and the capacity to get back to there. It just needs to be a place of open and curious, and getting past all of these triggers, all of these beliefs about ourselves and the world, all of these thoughts that are, constant on that monkey mind loop, that we can start dismantling those false constructs on the inside, get us back to that natural state of peaceful presence and non-attachment, so that we can go through life in a more, quote unquote, enlightened state.
Yeah, like the wisdom of the inner child.
100%. And the inner knowing, the intuition, the inner
Mhm.
knowing that we really get conditioned out of us, where it's like, no, I can do it. I know, or we're really drawn to something. Let's say, I got pretty lucky where I knew I wanted to be a designer from like seventh grade, and
Mm.
my dad was kind of in that mid 20th century workforce space where you started at a company and you put your head down and you worked hard and give it time and you'll work your way up.
Yeah,
um,
the
and
corporate
so
ladder.
yeah, yeah. And so there was definitely a lot of that input on his side of things when I was in my 20s, like, no, you need to find that job, you need to get that security. But I was coming from a place of recognize, being born in the 70s and late 70s, and then going through the 80s and 90s, and just where we are now and seeing where everything's going. Like, now I think I'm probably going to be working till I don't work anymore, like, till something happens, because I don't necessarily see these social security nets or these corporate security nets really being around forever. um, so I saw that, and I saw that differentiation, like, no, I'm gonna go my own way. But a lot of people, where it's like, no, I want to be an artist, I want to be a musician, and the family's like, no son of mine, no daughter of mine is going to do that. You need to be a you need to choose from this pre-approved list based on my experiences, based on our family history. um, so it is in a beautiful, very beautiful way. I was given that space to follow that passion, to follow that desire. um, but a lot of us have to go I mean, we'll get those gut check moments from an early age telling us we can't, or we shouldn't, or we don't do that in this family.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things are counter to that natural intuition that we have. And so a lot of this does take place. I mean, pretty much all of it takes place on the inside, but this is also for intuition training ourselves back to that inner knowing, so we have that inner compass, so we're not as easily swayed or dissuaded from things that we're really strong to, even if it might not be the most popular or accepted thing. But if we're really like, oh, this is like, I'm passionate about permaculture food forests, I'm passionate
Mhm.
about homesteading, I'm passionate about growing my own food, I'm passionate about creating my own art, I mean, those are the things, this creatorship that we're really blooming into collectively, is such a treat to be able to participate in, and watch and see unfold.
Yeah, I love that, and I feel that intuition is a newer concept, at least for me in my lifetime. Like, I didn't really ever really hear the word
Mhm.
until later in my life, and now I feel, especially with Himalaya telling me often, like, "Ooh, your intuition was right," and I'm like, "Ooh, is this a skill set?" Is like, do I need to go to the
Yeah,
gym and lift my intuition, like, ugh, pump some iron? But it's really what you're sharing is like
it is. Yeah,
allowing, being open, and when you don't know, then you're open to whatever messages get to, you know, come to your awareness, and then in that moment, I love what you're sharing too, of like that true north, that compass within us, and that's guiding us. And we're going to know. And it's kind of like the electricity analogy. Like, you're either going to be like, this is a life enhancing choice, or you're going to be like, oh, that might be a life destructive choice. Or it's not even the most, multiple choice of my life. Here's,
yeah,
here's the way to make that. And I really recognize too that those old constructs of work this job and, get this pension, and, I used to be a school teacher, so I was in that institution of, call it the golden handcuffs, right? Where you're
right.
going to
There
have
you go. Yeah,
security, but then you're going to be, overworked, underpaid, but you're going to be secure, but then you're never
right,
really courageously living. And of course, for certain people that have witnessed my international move to Costa Rica, there's like, oh my gosh, I can never do that. Well,
right.
that's because you said you could never do that. So obviously you'll never do that because that's you, you know, putting those imprints in your mind, and it's like muscle memory. So if you're sharing that, if someone does
Yeah,
something that they're passionate about and they love, and you say, oh, I can't do that, then you're playing it safe. And what is, I can't remember if it was the Buddha or someone said, the biggest mistake that people make is they think they have time.
right.
It's like,
Yeah,
take action, if make it
do it.
happen, if your intuition
Yeah,
says yes, and if you're in it. And that's what I've been able to follow in my journey so far, and it's paid off
yeah,
dividends because I love being here. I love this lifestyle, and I also feel that the artistic expression that you were sharing about. It's interesting because here at Embody, we're going to be doing more permaculture, sustainability, growing our own food. And then
Yeah.
as far as my creativity goes, it's just like I have so many ideas. And before I was like, oh, I'll do one song a month on Spotify. Now I've been like 2 songs a month because it's
Yeah.
coming. Like I can imagine you, like when you wrote your book, you're just like, it's coming out fast. So
Yeah.
it's almost like, what are the ingredients to allow for that to take place? And I know that you and Kelly are offering courses
Mhm.
around that. So let's jump into what
Yeah.
those courses are. And I know some of these questions are universal questions that can't all be answered in one podcast, but feel free to speak specifically about like each of these
Yeah.
3 online course offerings.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And so what we're looking at here, if you're looking at the screen, are 3 courses that we offer. They're online. You can take them anytime. And 2 of them are really based on the foundational concepts in the book, My Guy on the Ninth Floor. So Radical Living is practically applying over a 6-week course, all of the concepts of the radicals into our everyday life. So week 1 is looking at radical energy. And it's the practice for that first week is just simply observe and release resistance to any reactions we have. So if we got to recognize a reaction and disrupt the reaction. And this is really just what you're talking about. Oh, I could never do that. And one quote that we have that we shared on social media was, if you believe it won't work, then it works by not working, which is very similar to the quote that you shared from the Buddha. It's like your beliefs create your reality. So if you say, I can't do that, then you're going to be right. If you leave that
Yes.
door open, then there's opportunity there. So it really is a training for getting our hands back on the wheel, getting our hands back on the reins, eliminating or diminishing the negative language that we use about ourselves. And this is one of my favorite weeks. It's radical honesty, and it's an elimination week. So we're eliminating distancing words and negative words from our vocabulary. And so eliminating things like should, need to, have to, ought to, trying, because all those words do are distance ourselves from ourselves. Oh, I'll try and get that done. Oh, I'll try and make it. Nope. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. You're either going to attend or you're not going to attend. If we need a few minutes to make that decision, let's be honest with our communication, with our context. So it just builds on those concepts for ourselves as individuals. Radical relationships is similar, but we're focusing on applying all of those concepts and all of those practices to relationship. And I loved what you shared in the beginning when we're talking about kind of when we are in relationship. These are things that can I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where it really gets challenging, because we're in those intimate relationships and all that stuff from our childhood, from past life, from epigenetic or from ancestral influence start coming in and start rearing their heads. So it's how do we apply these personal practices to our relationship with others? And we are in relationship to everything. We're in relationship to ourselves. We're in relationship to our environment, our family, our friends, our colleagues. It's all relationship. So it's really recognizing how we can apply these tools to interpersonal relationships and be more successful in life. And then the last evergreen we offer is a self-muscle testing course. And this is for if you have an awareness practice, you're aware of your triggers, you're in the process of reconciling your existence with yourself, however you're on the journey of life. And this is really, for me, this was the accelerator pad in Mario Kart that really started launching me quickly forward. So I learned subconscious transformation techniques. I learned emotional transformation and release techniques, and I learned how to self-muscle test. And those were the 3 tools that really just started accelerating from over about 3-year period. I was very diligent with my practices. I started feeling better. So I was like, I'm not letting myself get away with this nonsense anymore. And what I recognized, and this kind of dovetails in with the last question, another important thing when we're clearing space for that insight or that intuition or that inner knowing to come in is we have to be practicing healthy discernment, because so many of our thoughts on any given day are complete BS and nonsense. So they've done research, the colloquial they, I can share the links if anybody wants. and looked at how many thoughts we have on any given day, and then what quality were those thoughts. And what they found was, on average, we'll have about 70,000 thoughts in a single day. And about 95% of those are going to be repetitive or looping or reflective of a thought we've had in the past in some way. And about 80 to 85% of those thoughts are going to lean towards negative. They're going to be negatively oriented. Can't, shouldn't, need to, I can't do that. I'm not good, those types of things. And so when we're in this practice, I had this when I came across that information, I recognized, well, if 80 to 85% of my thoughts are negative and 95% are looping, there's no new thoughts, it's just a looped pattern in some way, why am I listening to any of it? So then I started muscle testing everything. What shirt to wear in the morning, what to eat for lunch, what podcast to listen to. And so what I didn't know, and then I recognized in hindsight, was I was training my inner knowing, training my intuition by staying open and curious, getting balanced, grounded, and centered within my body. So I was more accurately testing, which we have techniques that we can share that you can do this. I mean, you can get grounded and balanced in less than a minute. And so it's the consistency with that, implementing those personal practices with these guidances in the courses that can really, if you're more interested in self-study, or you're more interested in self-guided approaches, these are fantastic for you. Now we're on a self-guided journey. We're doing our thing and we hit a wall, or we paint ourselves into a corner. That's where I would say consider a session, a one-on-one session, where we can dive deeper into the specific triggers, the specific beliefs, the specific subconscious programs, or the unique combination of emotional trauma and experiential situational trauma that are impacting our current experience, so that we can continue the journey, lighten the load, move forward more free. And those are going to be on rapidtransformationsessions.com. So if you go to the about and then book a session, that'll take you to our one-on-one. So this is our one-on-one session site. So we've got a 6-session program where we have our baseline processes that we recommend everybody do, just to, if we're looking at it from if our system is a car, let's use that analogy. The 6-session program is going to be like, we're taking everything back to factory settings. We're reupholstering, we're, new tires, new brakes, new alignment, new everything. And we're getting everything ready to then go and drive like it's new. So really getting to baseline with a lot of looking at positive beliefs. Something as simple as, I know who I am when I love myself unconditionally. It's such a powerful belief, and many of us will test weak to that belief being present within our system, because we've not been cultivated in a culture or in society or in families that really have expressed that total acceptance and unconditional love. A lot of times there's conditions placed on it, because generationally there were conditions placed on it. And so that's kind of what waterfalls forward generationally. So it's really arresting and halting all of those survival programs that we've adopted for no real reason other than, well, that's the way my mom did it, that's the way my dad did it. Or we swing so far away from it, I'm never going to do that. But then we have a child and we hear that little, oh my God, I sounded just like my dad. Oh my, we don't even have to have a kid. We get to a certain age and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. I sounded just like my mom. And so, it's just reconciling our biology, our physiology, our spirituality, our mental landscape, clearing and cleaning everything up, just so we can get into more of that bliss state, peaceful presence, more aligned state, so we can start making right action choices in life, even if they might be scary, even if they might be terrifying, recognizing that fear is temporary. It's only reflective of something we've experienced in the past. And it's strengthening that North Star, that inner compass, and also diminishing the impact of that monkey mind, the lizard brain at the same time, that really starts accelerating us forward.
Wow, I love that. And I love that you offer these one-on-one. You have online evergreen where people can sign up. And so the website as everyone can see, is rapidtransformationsessions.com. And yeah, what a unique, beautiful offering. Remember, I'm the cornfield from Iowa guy. So I think some of my friends back in Iowa can be like,
Oh yeah,
tell me more about this. What's this? So it might pique your interest. And I love your car
yeah,
analogy because I know my buddies back in Muscatine will be like, oh, yeah, it's like you got to put new brakes on her and then you got to put,
yeah.
fill her up.
Yeah,
And we
we've
start to
been
be caretakers of our body, right? Like
yeah,
then we can hit the
exactly.
road and life is a highway.
Exactly. And then it's onboarding the tools. So in real time while we're driving, we can also tune up the car and fix the car en route. So we don't get to this place in life where it's like we're just completely, um, hit rock bottom, or we're kind of, uh, I always like, there's an analogy we use. It's called the story of the lobster. And it's really just anytime we get close to an expansion layer or moving through something energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Um, so the story of the lobster is when lobsters molt. So lobster will molt 50 to 80 times in its lifetime. And I can't remember what it is, but lobsters could be uh, the non-aging. And there's just one, I can't remember what the factor is, but they'll molt and they'll live for 100, 150 years if they're not, caught, captured, or eaten. But when they molt, they go and find a quiet, safe place somewhere in the ocean, a reef, behind a rock. And if you're interested, go to YouTube and search lobster molting. It's one of the most violent acts I've ever seen. The lobster is literally shaking itself out of its shell. And then it's very, very tender. It's very delicate. And it's very vulnerable after we shift out of this protective layer. So it goes and it finds some safe space until its environment and the ocean harden its new outer shell. And I feel like we do that as humans, where we get to this place of discomfort or dis-ease, as I like to say. And we might call it rock bottom. We might call it the end of our rope. Any number of ways we can perceive it. But what it is it's telling us we're outgrowing an old pattern. We're outgrowing an old modality of thinking, of being, of believing, of acting. And it's when the old stuff comes up, sometimes in new ways, most times in old ways. But it's those recognition layers of, okay, I'm not at rock bottom. I'm not at my wit's end. I'm at one of the most fertile, most abundant places of transformation that ever exists. So what am I going to choose to do with it? Am I going to choose to turtle up and go and hide? Or am I going to choose to move through into some potentially new areas of thought, experience, and existence?
Yeah, I love that. And transformation does not take place in comfort. There's uncomfort and there's feelings that might feel scary.
Yeah.
And when you go through that darkness, through those shadows, like there's so much that can come to the new, fresh reality. I mean, it's the same with the analogy of, you know, becoming a butterfly. In
Yeah.
Costa Rica, there's so many butterflies, and there's only like 10% of all caterpillars that even become butterflies. I think I read that once.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it means that transformation is not for everyone and metamorphosis, but once it happens, it's very powerful because just you would have never guessed if you see this.
Yeah.
Yeah, caterpillar is going to become this beautiful, especially in Costa Rica, we have these beautiful morpho butterflies. But I love these signs in nature that, we're not in nature, we are nature.
Yeah.
And so we get to witness that. And we're like, oh, maybe that's something that I could take on in my life. And maybe that's a possibility for me to, um, you know, reinvent myself. And if
Yeah.
anything, just remember who we are, right? Because all
Exactly.
these ways of being, and I love these sessions that you and Kelly offer because it's allowing for people to like stop, drop, and roll. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's do the work here, people.
Yeah. And I love the butterfly analogy because, like, I mean, if we look at that chrysalis, the metamorphosis stage, a caterpillar will literally dissolve into goo and
Yes.
then reform as a butterfly in its cocoon. The
Yeah.
only challenge is for us, we don't necessarily have a quiet cocoon that we can go to. So another thing we like to say is life happens in the construction zone.
Mhm.
And yeah, so when is a good time for me to start? Now. What's the best time for me to jump into this work? As soon as you're ready.
Yeah.
If it sparks something, take one step. That's all it takes, one step right now. and then another step. And then we just add up those steps. We're not concerned about the destination. We're just one step at a time on the journey. And then the other, what was it? This butterfly. There's one other thing that popped in right there. It'll come back. Sorry.
I want to show you shall we show everyone the lobster? I pulled up the lobster.
Oh, you got it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so this is
Let's
because this is pretty awesome. South Carolina Aquarium, yeah.
There you go. And it,
Boom.
yeah, so it's got a pull, and then it goes, yeah, and then it goes to hide. So I mean, it would be like if we like just kind of disconnected a layer of skin and we're, you know, pulling our skin off. Yeah, it's going to be tender. It's going to be vulnerable. So, you know, like everybody is. It's okay. It's okay. None of us have the answers. Every single person is running around saying, "I've got the answer." You have the answer. What I can help with in my capacity is guide you to those answers, help you clear the way, help you release the traumas that we've experienced, the painful past, whatever it is. But just, you know, going back to that, what we touched on a little bit earlier, we've all got the answers that we're looking for on the inside. Most of them are just buried under layers of conditioning and programming. And none of our experiences are a life sentence. Everything can be reconciled. And the beauty thing is, we're not, you know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, are you going to take something? Are you going to change something?" I'm like, "No, but you are." And we're not eliminating or ignoring or bypassing or erasing anything that's happened to us or that we've experienced, but we are transforming our relationship to those things in this present moment, informing our system that those old ways, those no longer hold any water. We don't need to do those things anymore, and creating a new operating system on the inside, in a number of the ways that you shared off the top, with reconciling the parts, looking at inner child, looking at the belief systems that we get, that we unknowingly and unwittingly carry through life, because so many of us easily dip into that. "Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not going to go for that because I probably won't make it." Those aren't us. That's the collective conditioning suppression of the family and life and society. And so it does take a certain amount of, maybe you can call it gumption or unrelenting questioning or unrelenting just one step in front of the next, and looking for that guidance while practicing that healthy discernment. That's such a big factor, especially because the thoughts create reality. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are energy. So really cleaning up that mental landscape and what we allow through is really it's such a huge practice. And that's one, regardless of the course or regardless of the capacity in which anybody works with us. This is what I wanted to say earlier. With the Evergreen courses, we also offer live support weekly. And this is, I mean, even if you're not working with us, you're curious, you have questions, Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific time. I send out the link Thursdays on our social media on Instagram, and then sometimes on our email list. I try not to bombard those that have signed up for our email list with too much stuff. But if you're looking for some live support, sounding board, you're working on something, you're working through something, 4 p.m. Thursdays, drop in. Happy to chat, happy to answer questions, happy to share insight, provide whatever's there for us to talk about.
Excellent. And people can go to your website below and sign up for that. Okay, excellent.
Yep. So Rapid Transformation Sessions is great. If you're interested, I mean, one, you can book a 30-minute call with either Kelly or I to get more information, ask questions. Really, we call it a strategy call because it is strategizing, meeting each other. Hey, is this a fit? Is this something that that resonates with you? Is this something you want to explore? So a 30-minute call you can book through there, completely complimentary. We've got our social media links as well. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, that's probably the best way to stay up to date with kind of the more weekly type offerings that we've got. And then you can always just reach out. You can always just, reach out an email, reach out a DM. Anybody's got questions. We're Radical_Enlightenment on Instagram, at Radical Enlightenment on TikTok and Facebook. Yeah, we're just happy to keep the conversation going.
Totally. We're in a social media interconnected galactic journey here.
There it is. There it
So
is.
yeah, and I love these videos that Kelly will post. These are beautiful nuggets, and you're posting. Both of you are, looks like it's pretty even. Sometimes you're both on camera.
Yeah, we try and mix it up. Kelly's got amazing insight and knowledge and experience to share. So she's got kind of her solo stuff. I've got my solo stuff, and then we've got a lot of collaboration. That's, to me, those are the most fun. Those are the ones where I have a lot of fun. Where we're doing a skit, or we're kind of putting together some nugget, but we're disguising it as a reel that's for just for funsies. So
Totally. I love this
yeah,
too. And you have a really great following, 16,000 people. So anyone out
yeah,
there, it's Radical_Enlightenment. Go to that on Instagram. And
yeah,
as Kevin invited you into, if you just send a direct message, go to the website, either radicalenlightenment.com or, as I put up on the screen, rapidtransformationsessions.com. Okay, so we are on the fifth and final question, which is more of an invitation for you to share any closing words, advice, or wisdom.
oh my gosh.
I'll pass the mic to you. Boom.
Yeah, so just kind of looking back on a few things that we've shared, and then maybe adding a few new ones. Yeah, you've already got all the answers. They're all on the inside. Probably just not the answers that you were expecting. So there's a lot of ways we can reconnect with those answers. Any type of a positive disruption, I recommend. And so that would be breath work, rebounding, getting out in nature, grounding in nature, physically connecting, bare feet. It could be with workout. It could be with nominal tasks. I find preparing dinner, cleaning the house, digging a hole, doing some kind of a project can be amazingly meditative and really bring us into that present moment. Also, you are not your thoughts. You are not your reactions, and you are not your emotions. On this inner journey, that's probably one of the most pivotal concepts that I've kept in the forefront of my mind as I've experienced my own thoughts and reactions and emotions. And so just because we are not these things doesn't mean that we don't experience them. And so we will experience all of them. But part of shifting into this more observational relationship with ourselves and with life does come with a healthy dose of recognizing, by and large, the thoughts, the reactions, and the emotions that I have are conditioned, programmed, and patterned based on my life experiences. And we are not the sum of the parts. We are greater than the sum of the parts. So yeah, you are perfectly you. You are absolutely perfect in this moment in every possible way and expression in any dimension of reality. And it's just the decision of, do I feel good right now? Do I feel peaceful, present, balanced? Do I feel inspiration? Do I feel do I get those aha moments? Am I connected with my intuition? And we're just reconciling those relationships on the inside. And so keep taking those one steps. Alan shared a comment about communication is light overcoming darkness. I like to share it's more embracing both and reconciling the all. So it's not so much light overcoming darkness as it is finding this balance and looking at it from the standpoint of when we move beyond the duality of this universe, there is no light and dark. There is just the universe. There's the singularity. There's the ambient energetic layer that imbues all things, and whatever label we call that thing doesn't matter. It's the relationship we have with it that really comes into the forefront. And so we will be on this journey. You will be challenged 100% with your beliefs. If you have fear, we're carrying fear with us, that'll be held up and that'll be reflected. If we've got judgment or comparison, that's going to be held up, that's going to be reflected. So I'll wrap it up here. And in closing, I think I'll just say the most important thing, other than recognizing that inner journey, is recognizing that we live life in a mirror, not looking through a window. So anytime there's any type of reaction, anytime there's any type of resistance or attachment, recognizing that we're looking in a mirror. So what within us is triggering this reaction to reach for something external to fill up a perceived deficit on the inside. So if we can bypass that, the reaching for outside of ourselves for that thing, we're going to save ourselves a whole lot of heartache, a whole lot of income, a whole lot of stress. If we're just getting to that place of oh nope, this doesn't have anything to do with anything that's going on outside of me. This is within me. So why was I reactive? Why did I get triggered there? So we can start really taking that ultimate responsibility in life for our energy, for our words, for our outlook, for our beliefs. That is the way that we can start reconciling our individual experiences, which is how we can start reconciling our collective experiences and get to a place of experiencing more peace, more presence, more abundance for every single being on this planet, not just for those who are in what we might perceive more beneficial circumstances.
Thank you, Kevin. Amazing. Thank you for being a mirror, reflecting back to all of us, and for the wisdom, for being such a powerful communicator and bringing that message to the people and to anyone that is open and receptive. And I trust that today, Mary, Alan, and some other people that were watching live with us, that you will take this into your life and check out the website, that you can book a call, as Kevin and Kelly offer 30-minute strategy sessions. And if you have any questions whatsoever, as always, Kevin said he's here to support all of us on our journey. And sometimes we fail, sometimes we forget. And hopefully today's podcast is for us to say, everything is perfect. It's all good.
Yep.
Keep moving forward, one step at a time, chop wood, carry water.
There it is. Yeah. There is no failing. It's just, oh, okay, that wasn't and again, failing's a judgment, right? Failing's a comparison.
Definitely programmed.
There's a quote about creating the incandescent light bulb. It's like, no, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb. And then all I need to do is find one way to make it work. So I found a lot of ways that didn't work. All I need to do is find one that does. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're diminishing those perceptions, where it's like, oh, I failed, and then, oh, I'm bad, and then, oh, I'm worthless, and then, oh, I'm unworthy. Yeah. Or, oh, I failed, that means I'm bad, that means I'm unlovable, that means I'm not capable or deserving of love. And those connections happen in an instant, in a fraction of a second, because that's how powerful this system is, this protection system, the subconscious. Yes. Yeah. And so just something as easy as that, recognizing I have never failed in my life. I've had things that haven't worked out 100%. But I've not failed at everything, because it's informed me, and I've taken great knowledge and experience from those things.
Yeah. It's all Jedi training, right?
It is. Yeah. 100%. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks again, Kevin. Thank everyone out there for being here. I want to acknowledge all of us for being open and curious, and anything is possible. Thank you for joining this podcast today. Thanks again, Kevin. All right.
Dave, such a pleasure seeing you again. Hopefully soon, hopefully down with you in person, live and in person. That'd be amazing.
Yes. Pura vida.
Pura vida, tica.
Eso. Okay. Gracias, amigos.